Hey all, this is Redatosker. If you're like me, you are a Souls fan that's become very interested in Armored Core 6: Fires of Rubicon. Unless you're an Armored Core fan already, the reason that you're interested is because you like Souls games. You like Dark Souls, you like Elden Ring, you like Sekiro, you like Bloodborne, or you like From Software games in general. You think that From Software has never produced a bad game, and you're open to trying this mech genre even if it's something that's typically outside your wheelhouse. Or you believe that Miyazaki is the unchallenged king of game developers, a true luminary, king among creators. Anything he gets his grubby little hands on turns to gold. He may no longer be directing the game, but you trust his decisions, you trust the people he's left in charge. You trust the new director Yamamura, and you trust From Software's expertise in general. And you believe explicitly that From Software is about to create the greatest mech game ever produced. Now, if you are a Souls fan, a very clear question starts to arise. One I've gotten asked multiple times since I started playing Armored Core. And the question is, will I, as a Souls fan, enjoy Armored Core? Does Armored Core have things that you think a Souls fan would enjoy? And the answer to that question is no. A Souls fan will not like Armored Core for Souls reasons. If a Soul fan does enjoy Armored Core, it's not going to be for Souls-like things. It's not going to be for the same reason that he likes Dark Souls or Elden Ring. There isn't much overlap in their appeals. From a strictly gameplay perspective, the appeal of Dark Souls is methodical combat. It's about dodging enemy attacks. It's about finding openings between those attacks. It's about being punished for making bad decisions. And it has an emphasis on difficulty. The game expects you to lose. It expects you to lose in the levels, it expects you to lose to the bosses, and it expects you to lose to some bosses several times. The game expects you to intuit these attack patterns through repetition. In my opinion, this is the quintessential Souls experience. When you're up against a difficult boss and you've died a few times already, and you're beginning to figure out when to dodge, when to block, when to parry, when it's safe to go in for a counterattack, and how to make the most out of that opportunity. It feels like you're engaged in a dance with the boss. For many, this is the heart of Souls combat, and it's not something that's really present in Armored Core. At this point, I've beaten Armored Core 3, Armored Core 4, Armored Core 4 Answer, and I've played a little bit of 5. And if there's a dance at all in Armored Core, it's not the same kind of dance. To begin with, Armored Core does not have the same emphasis on difficulty and repetition. You aren't expected to be memorizing attack patterns. It's not expected that you dodge every machine gun round or every cluster of missiles, and there aren't many missions that are expecting you to fail and try again. These aren't games that have a huge emphasis on difficulty. You can get by with a very mediocre grasp on how everything works. And so a Souls fan that's looking for telegraphed attacks and methodical combat is going to come away disappointed. Souls fans looking for Souls elements are not going to like Armored Core. But they might like Armored Core 6. Because Armored Core 6 is going to have exactly those elements. Let's talk a little bit of history. Let's go back into the past. Vaati, the biggest Elden Ring lore YouTuber, put out a video about Armored Core. That video predicted that Armored Core 6 would have some Souls-like elements. That prediction was based off of some things that were in the Armored Core website and a leak by a Reset Era user that had actually seen the game. Vaati was roundly criticized by Armored Core fans for this prediction. They viewed it as an intrusion and an attack on their series. They saw this as an attempt to dilute their series into a Souls-like. And a few days later, From Software did an interview that seemed to deconfirm Vaati's assumption. But now with the release of the latest Armored Core 6 trailer, and the interviews that accompanied it, it's clear to see Vaati was right. The latest trailer clearly shows telegraphed attacks that would not look out of place in a Souls game, and that would look out of place in any of the Armored Cores I've played so far. This enemy unit has slow-moving arm grinders, clearly telegraphing their vertical and horizontal attacks. This one does a very telegraphed jump attack with an electrified chain whip. This one does a telegraphed charge attack that you see your Armored Core get out of the way of, only to be caught by the second charge by a very Dark Souls-looking grab attack. This spider mech telegraphs a piercing attack and then slams down, creating an AoE. This is something new to Armored Core, yet very familiar to those of us that play Souls games. And it's further corroborated by information that was obtained through recent interviews. In a PlayStation blog post, it says, "In grand From Software tradition, it may take several attempts and some experimentation with your Armored Core's equipment to fully learn and adapt to a boss's quirks. So, better prepare yourself, as Armored Core 6 will offer numerous cathartic, explosive battles that'll truly test your skills." In a different Eurogamer interview, they say, "Another big addition to this game are giant towering bosses, which reflects From Software's penchant for impressive and challenging battles, and learn attack patterns through repetition." I want to point out that both of these interviews highlighted the same thing. A focus of this Armored Core is going to be enemy pattern recognition to take advantage of openings, and learning through repetition, implying that there's a greater level of difficulty. In yet another interview, Yamamura is asked about fixed targeting. The interviewer mentions that, in the game the targeting seemed extremely stable, and asked if it was a fixed targeting kind of system. This is Yamamura's reply. "Speaking of aiming, Armored Core 6 is a very action-oriented game compared to previous games. Therefore, rather than focusing on aiming, we will have to concentrate on the movements of the enemy and on finding the right windows to attack. There will therefore be new elements related to this aspect." Now, Yamamura didn't really answer the question that was asked. We still don't know if it's going to have a Dark Souls-type lock-on system. But what he did say is also very interesting. He says that the focus is going to be not so much on aiming, but rather on concentrating on the movements of the enemy and finding the right windows to attack. A description that could easily be made about Dark Souls combat, and that would not really be so easily made about previous Armored Cores. Now, Vaati recently made a lengthy video on the new Armored Core trailer. It's got a lot of great information, you should go look at it. But in the middle of that video, he takes the well-deserved opportunity to basically say, "Fuck you, I was right." He mentions that other commentators mischaracterized his position, and made it seem like he said that this would be Dark Souls but with mechs, when that's not what he said, and what has ended up happening is very much in line with what he predicted. So, Vaati, and the people who agreed with him at the time, were correct. And so, let's get back to the initial question. Are Souls fans that have never played Armored Core going to like Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon? Is there going to be any overlap between the things that they like in Dark Souls gameplay and the gameplay of the new Armored Core? And the answer to that question is yes. But there's also probably a lot of other things that you'll enjoy about the game too, things that are unrelated to Dark Souls. This will be at its heart still an Armored Core game. These additions are not going to change that. If you're a Souls fan unfamiliar with this genre, then maybe you'll be drawn in by these elements of Souls games that you recognize, but I suspect that you'll also learn to enjoy elements that you don't recognize that are exclusively Armored Core. And that's the end of this video. Please unsubscribe and unclick the bell notification. And as always, thank you very much for watching.